Hi, I'm here to share with you how I got a 12-unit apartment lot for free. I'm Joe. I've been a real estate developer for the last 22 plus years. I have extensive development experience. I've done apartments, townhouses, subdivisions, manufactured home parks, RV parks, storage facilities, light industrials. You name it, I've probably developed it or looked at it. This is how I got a 12-unit apartment lot for free. I'm super excited to show you how I did this. This is a real deal. You're going to actually see the real numbers and the real steps that I took to make sure that I was able to get this deal done. Now, I like to start with the framework because it's really the framework that allows me to do deals differently than how everyone else does. I use something that we call the BOGO method. That's where we buy one and get one. So I'm always looking for properties with extra land where I can develop into something else, maybe apartments or an RV park, or I can just carve off a lot and sell it. The deal always starts with the market. I'm always choosing markets that have high velocity. I'm looking for markets where there's a lot of buyers and sellers exchanging back and forth very fast or at a faster pace. I don't like to see stuff that sits on the market. The other thing that I'm looking for is that I'm always looking for positive appreciation. I'm looking for between 5 and 10% appreciation year over year. And if the market has those two things, I'm coming in. So now that I've started with the market and I've chosen a market for this project, I start looking through the properties for sale. Initially, when I was in this market, I really liked the market because it's a tight market, it was high velocity. And in my research, I figured out that they were in short supply of apartments. So I immediately started thinking, you know what? I'm going to look for something that's for sale, that's on apartment ground where we can either divide off some ground or we can build some more apartments. So I went through and I looked at everything for sale. I wasn't able to find anything. So then I started reaching out to realtors. I looked at the market and I said, okay, give me the top 5 realtors in this market. Out of those top 5, who are the ones that work with investors the most? I started with that person and I called those 2. The first gentleman I called was very interesting. I really liked him. I got along with him. And I said, hey, I'm in this market. I'm a real estate developer here to buy some apartment grounds so that I can build some apartments. He said, hey, okay, I'll take a look and I'll call you if I find something. Then I talked to a second realtor, and the second realtor wasn't as friendly, and I didn't like him as much because he didn't seem as active or as interested in making a sale. I still gave him the same spiel. I talked to him about how I was an investor and how I wanted to buy some apartment land here. And he said, if some comes across my desk, I'll give you a call. Now, here's the thing. I knew that the market was short in apartments. Both realtors had an idea of that, but I don't think they really knew how short supplied this market was. And I wasn't about to tell them. The first realtor that I really liked, he called me back and he said, hey, Joe, I've been talking with these fellas. They have some apartment ground and they told me that they would be willing to sell it if the price was right. The fact that it was apartment ground, there was nothing else on it, and it was a couple acres, I was like, ooh, this could be a good deal. I'm really going to look. Once I started to look into it, this looked really promising. I started to do my research. The first thing I do is go and find the zoning map for that municipality or county. I start with that, find the property in the zoning map, and it's usually denoted by a color. I take that color and I go over to the key and I look to see what that zone designation is for that property. In this case, it was zone A1, which is high density residential. All right, that's basically apartment ground in this market. Then I looked in the municipal zoning code and I found it in chapter 17.56 or 55. And what it was is A1 high density zoning. I read through the code and I found out what we could do with that property. The thing I liked the most was that I could build a park. So now that I knew the zoning of the property, I had a large enough chunk to get enough units where I felt it was comfortable and feasible. I started to look up the deed records because I want to understand where the seller's coming from. By looking up the deed records, I found out that this property was inherited. These 2 gentlemen, I'm assuming, were brothers and inherited it from their parents. This is probably one of the better scenarios that I really like dealing with because it's really free money to them. It's money that they didn't have. So they're like, I own that piece of property over there, or I can have a bunch of money to do something that I want to do. So when I see that, I always know that I can offer just enough that I can usually make a deal with them. Knowing that, I decided to go through and research the surveys and the deeds. It's more out of habit than anything else because I want to know if there was anything funky at one time, like a gas station or some sort of convenience store or something, storage of natural gas. I don't know. But I always research back to see if anything had ever been on the property before, especially when it's blank. I found out that the property was actually once two lots instead of one. Now, I really like it when there's two lots instead of one because there's usually something more to it. When I find out that there's something more to it, what I'm insinuating or what I'm looking for is a hidden value. So immediately what went through my mind was this is a big enough parcel, I can get enough units that if I put that line back in there and I create two lots, I redivide it into two lots, I might be able to sell one of those lots and recoup most of the purchase price for both of them or all of the purchase price and get a lot free and clear. Now, I started down that road. That's not exactly what I thought was going to happen, and we'll get to that part. So this is where I discover what I like to call the hidden value. I saw that it was one parcel now, but at some point it had been two. And so what does that tell me? One, I know that if it was once two, I can always divide it back into two. The second thing that tells me is that a lot of times when I buy one larger parcel and I divide it, I can sell one of those parcels and recoup 2/3, 3/4, or even all of my initial investment and get the remainder for free. So that's the path that I started down when I purchased the property. The purchase price was $500,000. I started a little lower and was willing to go up to $575,000. This is range purchasing. I always do it when I'm buying property so that I know what I can go up to and it's never a question. Now, I had $7,573 in soft costs. What are soft costs? We have property taxes, so we had the yearly tax bill for this property. It's $319.41. Insurance companies don't insure bare land, so I don't carry a policy on that. I do carry an umbrella policy, but I don't have one specifically for this property, so I didn't have to pay for that. Then I had points because I knew I was going to get a loan on this property, and the points on this property were 1.5%. And so that was $3,943. And then I knew that I had closing costs. And these are the costs that the title company and the escrow company charged me to handle the transaction for me. So that all being said, my soft costs were $7,573.41. So that brought my total purchase price to $507,573.41. I put down $250,000 and I got a loan of $257,573.41. Now, in doing this, especially when I'm going to divide land or do some improvements, I always put those expenses in there and I call them development costs because that's what they are. I knew that I was going to spend another $6,000 to $7,000. It turned out to be $6,130. I had to pay the surveyor to put the stakes in and resurvey it. And then I had to pay him to sign an affidavit, draw it up, pay the court recording fees and the check plan fees that go to the county surveyor. So all in was $6,130. I knew what this was going to cost me to move forward, to redivide the property, and that's where I was. So now, when I look at this, these are the numbers when I sold the lot. Remember that I chose the market first, and remember that I had done my research and I knew that this market was in short supply of apartments. So what does that tell me? Other apartment builders or developers are going to want to build in this market because they need the supply. So when I went to sell this, we sold this for $550,000. Now, that's not what I listed it for. That's the number we came to. And I was pretty sticky on that number because I wanted to make sure I could get all of my money back and pay the realtor and the fees to close it on the sales side. So we ended up striking a price. We made a deal, $550,000. It sold very quickly. I had to pay the realtor 5%, which was $27,500. I had my holding and soft costs from the purchase of $75.73. And then I had my development costs of $61.30, and that's where I put the line back in there to get the lot, again, to divide it into two. So that gave me a total cost of $508,796. I had a loan amount of $257, and I had my down payment. So after I paid both of those back, I was able to make $1,223.18 on this project. Now, you're thinking, Joe, why would you risk all of that money and go through all of that trouble to make $1,223.18? I'll tell you what, it's simple. Because not only did I make that money, I also got a lot that I could build 12 apartment units on it free and clear. Not only did I put a little bit of money in my pocket, I got a lot where I can build 12 apartment units on it free and clear. Now I have one zoned lot free and clear. And I have several options. One is I can do the development options where I can build 12 units and use the lot as my down payment for the construction costs and the construction loan to build those 12 units. So I don't have to come out of pocket to start the project. After I built those, I could decide to keep them, refinance them because they're worth more than what I paid for them once they're stabilized, or sell them. So I actually have three options behind it. The next option is the least option, and it's probably my least favorite, is the sale option. I could probably call the same person that bought the other lot from me and say, hey, would you like the lot right across the street? Since you're already there building, would you like to build on this one? And I'm sure they would take it or somebody else would take it, and that's all profit, and I would stick all of that back into my pocket. And then the last option, and I've done this a couple times, and I call this the partnership option. What I could do was I could sell half of the lot to another partner, and we could go in together and build it. So when I sell him half the lot, I'm going to put half that money in my pocket. I'm going to get cash, and then I'm going to own half the lot still free and clear. I'm going to have a partner involved with this, and we can develop it. Once we develop it, we can decide to keep it. We can decide to refinance it and pull some cash out, or we can decide to sell the project. That one gives me three options as well. And I'm getting paid every step of the way. I know that I'm no longer in 100% control and I don't own it all, but it is a good option if you want to put some money in your pocket and you want to save and you want to make some down the road as well. I have done that a few times as well, and I really like it. I always get asked questions at the end of these deals that I do, and especially the ones that I share with people. Did the deal go as planned? And the answer is always the same. No, it never does. These deals never go as planned. The great news is that I can plan on it never going as planned. Sometimes when we hit those bumps in the road, those can be turned into opportunities. I love opportunities. So you never know, but I always know that a deal never goes exactly as planned. So I'm always prepared for it. The second question I get asked a lot is, did I make as much money as I thought I would? Actually, I made more money than I thought I would on this deal. Why? Because I thought I would get 2/3 or 3/4 of the lot paid for, and I would still have some sort of small basis in the property. As it turned out, it was a hot market. The developer wanted the ground. I was able to sell it more, and I actually put a little bit in my pocket, not much, but I was able to get the lot free and clear, which for me is awesome. So I did much better than I thought I was going to do on this. The last question I get is, would I do this deal again? Absolutely, I'd do this again. I look for deals like this. One thing I do know is that when I'm looking for deals like this, I never find them. But when I'm just looking for deals and I have my eyes open, I find them here and there every once in a while. As far as future options, one is that I can use the lot and I can build it. And then after I build it, I can run it, refinance it, take some cash out, or sell it. Or I could just sell the land, which I don't like because I only get paid one time. Or I could partner with someone else where I sell them half of it. So I put some money in my pocket, then we develop it, and we could either keep it, we could refinance it and pull some cash out, or we could sell it. This has been a fantastic deal for me, and I'm so grateful that I got the opportunity to share it. I hope you got something out of it.